Dear colleagues, welcome to another informative video from this channel. In this video, we will discuss the new threats from Kim Jong-un, which promise to severely impact relations between the two Koreas and completely derail the promise of peace in that region. In June 1951, exactly 1 year after its onset, the Korean War entered a terrible stalemate. North Korea, with nearly 1.5 million Chinese soldiers armed with tanks, planes, and artillery supplied by Stalin's Soviet Union, entrenched themselves in advantageous positions along the 38th parallel, dividing the peninsula in half. This hindered the United Nations forces, led by the United States, from breaking through those lines, leading to an authentic trench warfare with thousands of casualties every day. With no end to the war in sight, negotiations for an armistice began in July 1951. The process was extremely slow, with both sides creating significant obstacles and difficulties. The armistice was finally signed almost 4 years after the start of negotiations. In June 1953, among the various difficulties faced by the Armistice Negotiation Committee, the greatest was undoubtedly the issue of the borderline that would divide the two Koreas. When the Korean peninsula was liberated from Japanese control in 1945, Soviet forces advanced from the north up to the 38th parallel, while Western Allied forces led by the United States advanced from the south to that same point, effectively dividing the peninsula. The situation on the peninsula remained more or less unchanged for almost 5 years until the then North Korean dictator Kim Jong, the grandfather of the current dictator Kim Jong-un, obtained assurances of financial and material support by invading South Korea in a surprise attack. On June 25, 1950, that attack destroyed the dividing line between the two Koreas but served as the basis for the division of the peninsula under the armistice, creating the Korean Demilitarized Zone DMZ, a strip of land 250 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide. Despite its name, the DMZ is the most militarized border on the planet, with tens of thousands of South and North Korean soldiers stationed in the area, supported by tanks and heavy artillery. While the landline dividing the two Koreas was clear and recognized by all, the division of the sea was not consensual. Both sides decided that some islands would be under South Korean control, while others would belong to the north. However, an effective line dividing the Yellow Sea that bathes the western coast of the Korean peninsula was not drawn to prevent potentially catastrophic misunderstandings. The UN drew the so-called Northern Limit Line, a line starting at the estuary of the Han River and heading north along the North Korean coast, leaving a series of small islands very close to the North Korean coast under South Korean control. Despite South Korean control of the islands in that region being accepted by the then dictator Kim Il-sung, the drawn line of the Northern Limit Line was never accepted, serving over the years as a North Korean argument for increased tensions with the South. This even led to direct confrontations, such as in 1999 when North Korean patrol boats violated the line, resulting in an intense exchange of gunfire with 30 sailors killed and 70 injured. Another noteworthy incident occurred in 2010 when North Korea fired upon some South Korean islands, injuring dozens of South Koreans. But the event that nearly plunged the peninsula back into war occurred also in 2010 when a South Korean corvette exploded, killing 46 sailors, an explosion that South Korea claims was authored by the North Koreans. In recent years, the situation in that sea area has been relatively calm, but in 2023, it began to deteriorate rapidly. North Korea even bombed the territorial waters of South Korean islands, with tensions escalating into a highly aggressive speech by dictator Kim Jong-un on January 15th. He told the parliament that the constitution would be amended to officially recognize South Korea as the enemy number one. The dictator went even further, stating that the new constitution of North Korea would include provisions for the invasion and complete annexation of South Korea under the communist flag of the North. Kim Jong-un also referred to the Northern Limit Line, stating that he does not recognize it and warned the United States that if they interfere in the region, they will be completely obliterated by his nuclear weapons. The statements of the current dictator, promising the annexation of the South through force and war, contrast with those of previous dictators, his father and grandfather, who always viewed South Korea as a territory to be reunified, but through peaceful reconciliation. If Kim Jong-un effectively amends the constitution, adding terms for a forced reunification with the South through war, there will be no room for peace. Officially, the North will no longer recognize the peaceful solution. And if the dictator's new constitution declares the northern limit line illegal, an armed conflict could effectively begin in that region. A conflict capable of spreading rapidly across the entire peninsula, reigniting a war that has been on pause since 1953. But now even more serious due to the nuclear arsenal of the North Korean dictator and his increasingly close relationship with Vladimir Putin. Don't forget to like the video, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell to not miss any updates.